Right. We'll go to consent agenda then. We have a finance and audit consent agenda.
We have a motion to approve the items listed on the finance and audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer, items A through F. A second?
Yeah, I would just like one clarification if we could, Gary. I think you addressed this.
Do you
want a second? You have a second.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to pull out the bus purchase, if you could just give a little bit of detail so I could understand that a little bit better. I heard what you said before.
Right, so at the last meeting, we approved acceptance of a grant to the state of Ohio for $135,000. We approved the purchase of 3 buses. We had a second grant coming that was tentatively awarded, but hadn't gotten the official letter yet, from the US EPA for $60,000 to purchase an additional 3 buses. The letter came in the day after the last board meeting, so this is the purchase. We actually, on the last agenda, approved to go out and bid for 3 more buses, because we bid through the House Schools Council, they do it twice a year. And so we approved to go out the bid, and then this award came through, so we can still utilize the fall bids and that pricing. So this is to purchase 3 additional buses using the US EPA grant, which triggers 3 different resolutions, one to accept the grant, one to adjust our budget to increase it $60,000 in a grant fund to purchase, that pays for part of that. Obviously, $60,000 is not each 3 buses, and then the actual purchase. So that triggered those 3 resolutions, and I was going to put on the March 31st agenda, but since we have this meeting scheduled today, I moved it forward so we can utilize those previous bids and not have to.
Thank you for that, because I didn't fully understand that last time. And the letter came in just after.
Came in the day after the last meeting, so it would have been a lot easier to just do all 6 at that time, but they sent it to me the day after, and I can get on the agenda.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
All right, if not, can you call the roll, Mr. Placco?
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Motion carried. We also have consent agenda for personnel.
Sure, we have a motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A through C.
A second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on these items? If not, can you call the roll?
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to the discussion portion for the meeting. So Mr. Hack, you had asked for some discussion on the Auburn Career Center enrollment process.
I did indeed, and I do have a copy of the letter that the Madison School Board President had sent out, and we had talked in previously about the situation with what's going on with Auburn Career Center and the change and how it impacts our student body, frankly, and how this was done without our knowledge, and it was a fait accompli. And I don't believe that the interests of Riverside are best served by the change in policy, and that I believe that we should write a letter similar in content to what was sent by Madison to let Auburn Career Center understand, and Dr. Bontempo understand that this is not appropriate. It's not an appropriate way to move forward, and it is not something that is in the interest of the students in general at Riverside and any of the other districts that are associated with Auburn Career Center.
So I guess the question I have, and I've been looking for information and like reading different pieces, so I have all these, but I can't find any evidence though that it is negatively impacting our students. So I guess, does anybody have any information that says only this first round, only 2 of our kids were chosen, or anything like that? Like, do we have any of that information?
Yes.
Okay, what do you have?
When you're a merit-based, you're accepting the highest qualified students. When you're a bucket-based, you're taking luck of the draw. That definitely affects.
But my
I think
question
that's what she
is,
asked.
do we have any information stating during this first round, we had less students chosen than we did the previous round?
Well, that I don't know about.
Okay.
It's just a general approach to merit-based, and so if we're looking at just Riverside,
Yep.
I think it's a little short-sighted, because I think we have a whole community we're involved with, so if we just take ourselves out of the community and focus on us, I think that we're serving our own interests and not the whole community. I think we should be looking at the whole community, all the other districts too.
But again, I think our job as a board is to represent all the students within our district and what's best for all the students, right?
I
So I
agree.
guess I'm asking, it sounds like we don't have anything saying
So-
this
so,
time.
But let me, so are you suggesting that the old process of merit-based was incorrect?
No, I'm not suggesting anything, I'm asking a question, I'm looking for
So
information.
this hasn't happened yet,
Right.
but it does not take we understand the criteria have changed. One does not need to have the experience of going through the criteria change to recognize that that is no longer merit-based, and that is negatively impacting, that has potential and would negatively.
Potential, again, so I guess my question would be, if we have a student that was pulled this time, are you telling me, when I read Madison's letter, it's telling me that student is probably not qualified? And I don't know that that's true.
What do you mean by pulled?
If they were pulled in the lottery process, right, so a student was randomly pulled from our district in the lottery process, when I read this letter, if I was that parent whose child was pulled this time around, the letter that Madison sends almost says that they're not qualified. And that kind of sends some concern to me. I don't know that we know
I'm not
that.
so sure the letter's saying they're not qualified. I think that what we're talking about is that instead of, in a general sense, accepting students that are, let's say, 3.7, 4.0 students in general, and then the other way of possibly accepting students that are 2.0 to 2.5. And it goes back to what some people would say, what do you call the medical student that graduates last in their class? Well, you call that medical student doctor. Now, do you want the person, brain surgeon, when we need brain surgery, having the person that graduated last in their class or first in their class or near the top to do that? Now in a medical school, they're all qualified generally, but what we're talking about here is even going below that standard and possibly taking students that don't even really much have an interest in even going to the school. We're not sure that everyone who's thrown in that bucket even wants to go to the school, because we don't know what the motivations are. And it was mentioned here, the Harvey graduation rate of 46%. You're putting students in there that aren't even graduating, that could possibly take spots of people that have worked 3 and 4 years to get a seat in the Auburn Career Center.
Well, let me add something, because I want to say an exact example, and you're right. So I had both sides of this, right? My oldest is in the EMS program. His grades were not great at all, right? He would have met the qualifications, but he went through the interview process when he first got in. He is insanely passionate about EMS firefighting. That's what he's going to do when he graduates this year. And so the interview process for him 100% worked, right? He was able to go. The point is, when they take away the interview process, you're not just saying only maybe kids who aren't qualified are there. I'm talking about the kids that actually want to be there. The kids that want to be there are losing out on the chance. You don't have to be a 3.75 or 4.0 student to be in it. You have to want to be there. And that's a part that's killing me, because my daughter also did not get accepted. She got an academic letter last year. She had a really bad first semester this year, but she is insanely passionate about being in the allied health program because she wants to be, her goal is to be a NICU nurse. She did not get in through the first round. But again, had she gone through the interview process, I guarantee you, because I know my child and how passionate she is about it, I would hope those are the kind of kids that we want in these programs, kids that are passionate about what they want to do, passionate about this program, and see that as their path to their future. And those kids are now potentially being able not to get into that program for kids who I know for a fact, because I've got a child in the program who says there's kids in his program who don't want to be there. They just want to be at high school. So it's an out to go someplace else. And I'm not saying the Riverside kids, I don't know what kids they are. Actually, my son's the only Riverside kid in his program, so whatever. But the point is, with the lack of interview, these kids now, we don't know who's getting it at all. And I think it has nothing to do with saying that the kids aren't qualified, because yeah, I'm sure some qualified kids got in the program too. But without an interview process and it being completely random, you are absolutely losing these kids who want to be there and potentially derailing where they see their future going. And that's, I think it's shameful, quite honestly.
So
Jennifer,
just-
thank you for saying that, because you said it better than what I said, and that's what I meant to say, but I didn't quite get there, so thank you.
So I'm going to weigh in with my 2 cents on this issue. While I believe that the process change was probably not done in the best way, And I believe that the Auburn board or superintendent, whoever decided to make that decision probably should have let their constituent base know that that change was being made and not done at the last minute that was affecting students that were applying for the current year. I don't feel like it is our place to be involving ourselves with their decisions on how they move forward. And if they decide to change the process, that is within their right as a board and as an administration over there. We are not, while we are members, we still have the right to withdraw as members from that organization, from the ESC, and then we wouldn't be able to send our kids there. I mean, we have that as an option. But at the end of the day, they're a public school, and it is my belief that the public school, as a public school in the state of Ohio, they are there to educate, and they have to accept students, all students, without regard to things. And I think that by implementing an interview process, they are then trying to make themselves more like a private school. That's my opinion, and I will go on record as saying that if we're going to put together a letter, I would prefer that it be some sort of a letter or anything that's going to have individual board members' signatures on it, because I don't think I would be in support of putting my name on that. So I just want to go on record as saying that.
Okay, so if I may. Yeah. So I guess two points. I guess going to Mrs. Harden's comments. So I think we have to, if we're going to be a society that is based on the principles of America, which is individualism, it is merit-based, it is limited government. We need to enforce that in all facets of our society, including with Auburn Career Center. What we can do, and I think what would have been a far more constructive way to have engaged this, if there's a capacity issue of Auburn Career Center, and we were not fully meeting the needs, that we could have worked collaboratively to expand the capacity of the programs. We did, to a certain extent, we did that here with the welding lab, right? And we have a collaboration with at least 3 other districts and possibly 4 other districts trying to increase vocational opportunity. That would be the way to address the concern, in my opinion, and not arbitrarily change things. But Mrs. Grassi, going back to your point on procedure, we agree that very likely they did not follow proper procedure in this.
That I agree.
Okay, and so that is a problem, and I am not aware of their board approving this. This is a need.
So again, I am gonna go on record as saying I believe the process change was done inappropriately. However, as a matter of record, they're a public school. We don't have entrance requirements, and we are a public school. We can't do that. That's not allowed. And I for one don't feel like, as a public school district, the Auburn Career Center is a public school. They're a public school. They're required.
So just to make sure I fully understand, so Auburn Career Center's been around, since I went to school here 40 years ago and before that. So were they wrong the whole time until this year?
Tom, I have no idea. I'm not on their board, and
So what's the point of making the change when to me?
I don't know. I would ask them, not me.
I understand, but I think that's why putting the letter together and at least asking for an explanation would certainly be valid. Talking about expanding capacity would be a valid point. And Mr. Krasinski, to your question initially, I don't think one needs to have experienced the change in process to recognize that you're going to have a different outcome than the previous process, or they wouldn't have done it, right? So and I think that we do have a potential example with Mrs. Harden's daughter. So,
and I don't think that we have to wait. I don't think a change will necessarily. I agree. There's a change. There's going to be a different outcome, right? But I guess what I'm saying is we don't know if the change is a negative outcome, right? We don't know that yet. So I agree with you on, they should have been more collaborative. And I can get behind saying, hey, come to us, be collaborative, let us help you, let's figure out solutions together. I think that's a great something that we could say to that board and ask them for that help, right? But I guess what I'm concerned about is putting in there that we know, like this says, most assuredly, which pretty much says we know that we're gonna get less qualified candidates, generally, right?
How can you not? But how can you not in a random sample? I mean, explain to me, because maybe I'm missing something, but if you had a tier based on merit, and all of a sudden, and let's say that, and if you accept that process is valid, right? And we have, 50, 60s, I don't know how many years Auburn Career Center's been there, but again, at least 40 years, and it was, and existed before that. So what is the criteria of making the change? And of course it's going to impact us. And so almost assuredly, I'd say that the reason that that's there is because it hasn't happened yet, but one does not need, there is no question that the change in policy is designed to have a different outcome, right?
I'm not sure I actually agree with that. Let's face it, at the end of the day, like some of those programs are not traditional type of educational programs. They're career tech programs, and just because I'm an A student may never make me a good cosmetologist. Like it would never.
Auburn's been around since the
You know,
mid to late
like-
60s.
But I don't necessarily agree with that. So,
Ms. Grassi, let me ask you this question. If someone had a strong desire to become a CPA, and another person in a math class had very little desire to become a CPA, and there was a lottery as to the next level of class, and that lower student that had no desire to become a CPA got chosen into that, and it's meant to graduate into being a CPA, and that student that wanted to be a CPA did not get drawn out of the bucket and did not have the opportunity, do you think that is the best outcome?
so for the record, CPA is a state licensure, and I have to take a test for that. You have to take a test. That has nothing to do with education,
Okay,
so.
it's just a general
Well, I'm just saying,
example.
you're asking me a question, and I'm saying that is a licensure issue. It has nothing to do with me going to school to be an accountant. There are many people who go to school for accounting and don't end up passing the CPA exam.
Well, I'm saying the desire there. If a person doesn't have a desire and they get a seat, where someone else does have the desire and they don't get the seat, what is that outcome? Is the outcome just as good having the person who doesn't have a desire taking that seat and not moving on, and not having the person who has a desire get the seat and not being able to move on? Because it appears to me that you're not gonna have a person moving to that next level because the person that gets it doesn't have a desire to do so. The person that did have the desire to do so didn't get the seat, so they can't do it. So is that what we're looking for? 'Cause that's the example.
Maybe the individual who wasn't that great or whatever actually ends up to be a fabulous business person.
Okay, and so.
I don't know that, and you can't determine the end outcomes by something at the beginning, without giving people a chance.
So I think, here's a better analogy, I think, or a different analogy. It's like saying to everybody, it's a licensure thing, but it is with regard to the CPA, but it's as if you would take away the pass grade and you just randomly selected the people who passed. If you took the exam, we're gonna randomly select who
That's
passed.
not-
It's exactly what
it
it
is
is.
not.
It is exactly what
Can
it
I
is.
ask a question, just to be, what is the expectation? So if we send a letter to Auburn, right, say we draft a letter, we send a letter to Auburn, I guess, what is the expectation? Are we saying you need to change this year? Or are we saying,
I would be a proponent of changing this year, and I would raise the opportunity to collaborate with Riverside, and I suspect most of the other districts would be open to it as well, to expand capacity so that we have equal opportunity, but not equal outcome.
So then let me understand, what you're asking is that we ask them to change their policy for the current year, which then affects the people who have already been selected into the programs, fairly or not fairly, and so you're asking them to now be affected as well. To change it and say, okay, I'm gonna withdraw your acceptance and I'm gonna give it to somebody else. Okay. I have a
My
real problem
understanding
with
that
that.
they're not done with the selection process yet, so I'm not so sure how many kids are gonna be impacted. I know probably some if they're in the middle of it. So what I would suggest to the board, if you're gonna send a letter, I'd send it soon.
Yeah, the next drawing is Monday. They're picking the last 10 for each program.
Yeah,
They-
so-
they
20
drew-
23
They drew the
programs?
first 10 seats for each class so far.
March 15th.
March
Right, but
15th.
so 23 programs, right? That's what it
Correct.
was, so another 230 kids will get chosen, and I wanna say they said of the, 460 seats, over 600, 700 applied.
For example, my son Ben applied for the architecture program, 16 applicants turned in their applications by the stated deadline, okay? They didn't pick all 16 of them, they had a lottery for 10,
there's 6 remaining, which my son is one of the 6 remaining, has to wait until the 15th to find out, which is after the deadline for classes here and at our Lakeland Community College. And he's got a 4.175 average and a real passion for engineering and architecture. So, you know, what this is doing, Mrs. Grassi, is it is denying people who are the best qualified from an opportunity to get the seat and perform. And our whole society is built on the best qualified people.
And I'm not denying that, I'm just saying that they are a public school. I don't know how much input we have into that process. And
Well, Dr. Bontempo violated their stated policy without telling anyone. He just unilaterally did it.
Again,
Okay.
sorry, I'm sorry, I
And
just
this
gotta
is
make
how
sure.
every vocational school does their admission process.
So, how they used to, or the
The way
current
they used to.
The way they
No
used to?
one does a random drawing that I've heard of in the state of Ohio. It is not, this is how vocational schools typically operate.
There is a, I don't mean to interrupt. I've been at the Auburn meetings. Mr. Bontempo, because he gave me a 20-minute lecture on equity when I was the only one at the school board meeting, he said that there is a group of schools that are vocational schools that are doing it. Not all of them, but there is others that have gone to the lottery system.
But the vast majority do
But,
not.
yeah, it's some kind of a split. But I think, Ms. Krasinski, to answer your question, kind of, the way I expressed it to the board, because in the interview process, you know, the grades aren't that big a part. When they did the interview process like my son did, it's a collective. They're looking at the interview to see if you're interested. They look at your attendance, they look at your grades. You don't have to be the cream of the crop for grades to get into that school. Let's be honest, years ago when we were in school, that's not what that school was designed for, right? But now you have this influx of students. And yes, the ultimate solution is expansion. I stood in front of that board and told them that I would get every business in 2 counties to support a levy to expand that school. That's the truth. As an employer, I need people to employ and I can't find them. But I don't want people that maybe just skated through that didn't really want to be there and they're going to be subpar. The market has set that place. You can go make $21 an hour at Amazon or Walmart or wherever you want. But to your answer, Ms. Krasinski, they kept getting hung up that people were there, and there was over 80 people at their meeting, just so you understand. People responded. We spoke for over an hour individually. The board let us speak as long as each person wanted to. Former students stood up there and cried about it, that they worked so hard. I told them, I'm not upset that my daughter didn't make the first round of lottery, because I just don't think that's fair. What I think is fair is if you told me my daughter didn't make it because there was 20 better qualified students based on their process, I can accept that. If my daughter was 22 out of 20, I'm fine with that. That's a fair process. That's real life. That's what's going to happen when they go out into the workforce. And I believe vocational schools, and what I've looked at, they do have different criteria, not for a straight public school, as far as the rules in which they operate. They have an entire admissions criteria in there for vocational schools only. And furthermore, public universities, they interview, you write an essay, you have to, you know, get accepted into the school. So
Real quick, thank you, I'm sorry.
I apologize for interrupting. It's just,
I guess for me, I'm not saying I'm not willing, I'm willing to send a letter. I guess what I'm trying to say though, I think as another board, we should be saying, hey, we're willing to collaborate with you, we wanna help you through this, we've been hearing from our public, we know they've been hearing from their public, like, more of a help find a solution than say, because again, I work in an industry of change, that's what I do. I'm a certified change manager, I'm a process manager, I mean, that's my whole job, is making things change, right? So I get it, they made a change, not that I agree with it or disagree with it, I don't know at this point. My point is, we don't agree with how they communicated, right? Because they didn't. I think that's fair to say, right? I mean,
I think
they
we
didn't
all agree,
communicate, yeah. 2, I think we're all willing to have a collaborative meeting with them, and I'm sure Madison, other districts also would be willing to work with them, right? And say, how can we make this work, right? How can we make sure that the process works and that we're helping them get to where they need, right? I don't know what the solution is, I'm just saying. And I don't know, I worry about, will they be able to make a change this year? I don't know, you know, that's hard to turn on a dime, but, you know, we're willing to start working with them as soon as possible, I think.
Right. What is strange to me is the fact that the Auburn board is made up of individuals on participating boards. And I would assume, and I've heard a lot out there, that people are not, other school boards are not happy about this, you know, as evidenced by Madison you guys are talking. So it surprises me that the board members,
Haven't done something.
yeah, or inserted themselves in the matter. I don't know how they feel about it, but you would think that they would have some discussion or further discussion about it. I don't know.
Right, I would definitely agree.
Maybe that's something to ask, like, what are you doing? You've heard from a lot of people, you just said people were speaking for
The Auburn
hours.
board didn't know about the change until parents started complaining. That was the part of the issue. So
Yeah,
they've
this-
only known about it
Okay.
at the February 1st board meeting they had is when I went to the meeting. And that is when they committed to look into it and find out what happened, because that board didn't know that this entire admission change had gone on.
Right, so it appears that if the Auburn board didn't know, it would be impossible for all the other boards to know. And there's no time, and so this thing's coming up, I mean, the time is running out quickly. And so I'd like to add one more thing. I spoke with a Dr. Hoadley. He's at the Tolles Career and Technical Center down by Columbus. And I spoke with him yesterday. And so I asked him what they do down there. And we had a nice conversation. And he explained that their process is that they do a first come, first served, but there is a qualification for GPA and credits and some other things. There's a qualification in there. But he said that's how they do it. And if you just want to back up from that program and kind of look at it and maybe put a subjective statement on it, typically when, Ms. Harden, to your point, when you have your daughter that wants to go in and she has a real strong desire to go in, she's probably going to put her application in first day.
She did,
Okay.
literally the first day, within the first hour.
The people that are just going to be thrown in a bucket, that don't really care if they go there or not, are probably not going to put in their application first day. So that's another option that they could look at. This way, you're not just pulling out of a bucket if people may or may not have any desire to go there. And Ms. Grassi, that doesn't take away from the possibility that a person that, we all know we all change, right? And as we're growing up, we change and have different desires. Someone might go in with no desire and end up being the best person ever. That can happen. That being said, the people that have worked towards it for 3, 4, 5 years are not then thrown in a bucket with someone that just got tossed in for whatever reason. And this first come, first served thing might be something else to think about or talk about. The problem we have here is there's not much time left.
So again, I think great idea is to collaborate with them well, right? Like, here's what other schools have done. I'm all for looking at what other people have done that have been successful, you know what I'm saying? But again, my concern about the letter is not sending a letter to them. Again, they should have communicated with us. We should have had some kind of notification. We know why that didn't happen, because it sounds like there wasn't communication among them, right?
Sounds like it was unilateral, be like you inside of Progressive making a decision yourself
Yeah.
without getting approval
They had a whole committee.
from your bosses.
They
had a whole committee?
They had a committee that worked on it for a year, they claimed.
Oh,
I was
really?
told-
18 months is what he said, but it was nobody associated with the board.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. But they claimed they did have a committee that worked
Now,
on it.
this situation is analogous to when this board, a couple decades ago, fired Earl Bardall, who was the superintendent at the time, okay? The guy was doing things that were outside the stated policies and practices of the Riverside School District, and unfortunately, it was just after he'd received a promotion and a new contract, so the board felt they had to go to the extreme measure to fire the guy. Unfortunately, because of that new contract, it cost us like $350,000 to buy out his contract. So Dr. Bontempo did exactly the same thing. He made a decision without telling anybody that's outside the stated policy of the Auburn Career Center School Board, and he just did it.
Real quick, you said they've been, because the letter that it looks like painful, is this what's inspired the work? Because it came on December 10th this past year. So I guess
I
I'm
was
just trying to
told by
put
their,
timeline.
I was told by their, I guess, I think it's told the executive director of it, that it was over a year that they had a
They've been
committee.
working on it?
Yes.
Okay.
They said at
I
the
think that
last-
letter came though after
He said
a
at the
call
last
again.
meeting, Dr. Pontempo said, it was just coincidence, the language in that letter, but that was not the reason for the change.
They started working on it previously.
He said that at the last meeting.
So just out of consideration, I know your schedule changed, unfortunately, and you need to leave by 9. I guess I want to make sure we kind of talk about, I guess I'm not comfortable with the Madison letter. I am comfortable sending a letter saying, hey, we're willing to work with you, we're willing to be collaborative. We wish you would have communicated with us previously. We don't know what the impact to our students is going to be. We don't know what the impact to the community is going to be, I guess is another thing we can add to it. But I want to, I don't wanna put anything that assumes that a child that has been chosen, to, I mean, I know somebody who doesn't public speak or speak well, they might not interview well, right? But they're very motivated, like, I get the interview process, cause I do it at work, I'm going through the process now, trying to hire somebody. I just wanna be careful that we're not saying kids that may have already gone in that lottery and have been chosen, we're not saying they're not qualified, they may very well be qualified. We're just saying that we wish you would have consulted with us about the process. I guess that's what I wanna be careful about.
Are we talking about the kids that were chosen, or are we talking the process, how they choose kids?
I guess, okay, so let me address that. So I guess what I'm saying is, we don't have anything to say that process change is incorrect. Mentally, I think we all have assumptions, we all are thinking that it's not gonna work out the way they, or he, whoever put it in place, believes it's gonna work out right, but there's a lot of assumptions.
Do you know why he put it in place?
Well, I guess not anymore, because I thought it was in regards to this letter, but I'm hearing that might not be true.
No, that's what I'm saying, do we even know what the motivation was? So I think.
So let's ask that question.
So I think we get down to saying, okay, what was the process? Why is the process changing? How did that happen? Why did it happen? And what will the new process be? And I think part of the problem is that, number one, it was done in the dark of night, okay? And done, if it's true, outside of the ORC, which is another big problem. And now you're taking away opportunities from some and giving them to others arbitrarily, and by one person's decision, without even the governing board approving it. And as I understand it, the board has still not yet approved the change, is that correct?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, now the process has changed, different students have been admitted outside of the old process, the new process has not even been formalized. This is a huge mess, so the letter would be, hey, what are you doing? You need to follow a process, and we're part of this process, and so we would like to see you, maintain some consistency. So at the very least, we need to send something like that. Now, Ms. Krasinski, what I would ask, are there any parts of the letter from Madison that you like? I mean, have you kind of redone it to
No,
what
I
you're
have
saying?
not. No, because I wanted to have discussion here to
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
what everybody was thinking.
I mean, because to me, I think we need to get a letter over saying we're interested, we want to be involved, something that says, hey,
Let's talk.
some light needs to be put on this
Give
situation.
us some answers, let's talk,
Right, 'cause
let's.
anything in the dark isn't good, right?
Right. And I'm okay with sending a letter to the board like that.
I would be in favor of a letter that says, yes, we're not in favor of the process by which you changed your policy in midstream, not giving people notice, those kinds of things. Again, I don't want to arbitrarily say that the entire board objects to the new admission process, because I'm not sure that we're there yet. I don't believe we know enough about the processes and how the outcomes will affect students across the community, across the 10 districts. I'm not sure I wanna do that.
So what is your perspective on merit-based admissions?
At a college level, I think they're
Just in
fine.
general.
And in a high school level, when you have kids that are trying to figure out their way in life and whatever, I believe that every student deserves an opportunity. And sometimes kids that you don't think are going to succeed, by giving them that one chance, they make something of themselves. And I think if we take away that opportunity for that student, we're doing a disservice.
I don't think we're taking away that opportunity
I
at all. Like I
just-
said, my son was exactly that person.
So-
He was not doing, well, he's still doing terribly
I-
here.
again-
At Riverside he is, but
again,
Auburn is what his passion.
I
It is, yeah.
believe that the process should take that into consideration, but I don't know what that process should look like without further conversation with Auburn. This is the first time we've ever been involved in, or had conversations about what their process is. We're not them, they're not us, and, typically speaking, we don't get involved in other boards' decisions. And so if we're going to jump into that fray, like, by all means, but I believe we should have some good discussion with them about what that process is.
And we were supposed to have that discussion,
Well,
right?
and the fact that we didn't, yes, I would tell them that that's not
We asked for
proper.
information.
That's what I mean.
Right.
And
So-
they
and
were
I think
supposed to
that's-
come here, and they refused to come here to
Right.
talk with us.
And I think I think we can put that, we asked you to come give us information, and
Yeah,
we didn't
so
get it.
I definitely would include that
Yeah.
aspect, that we invited Dr. Bontempo to come in and talk to the board so we can better understand what was going on, and the offer was not accepted.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I believe, Tom, you're right. If they have programs that are reaching capacity and we can do things collaboratively with them to expand
other
offerings and
districts.
programs, or if they want to increase their capacity because there's popularity in certain programs, then that should be topics of conversation that, right, that we're having with them, that they're having with their member districts. I think that's important to be able to offer those types of opportunities to students, but,
So,
I mean, I agree.
yeah, and the one point I would make, you had indicated, my counter to, we shouldn't be telling other boards what to do. If boards were operating independently, if we didn't have overlapping jurisdictions and concerns, I would agree with you. We shouldn't be telling Madison how to run their school district, or Perry, or Painesville City, or anybody else. But Auburn's unique because part of our student body goes there. We have a vested interest in how Auburn Career Center operates because part of our student body
Well-
is participant.
But that's because we choose to be a member of the ESC,
And maybe, and so
right?
again.
So that's a choice we have.
Right, but until this issue came up, I think we've been pretty happy overall, I think, with Auburn Career Center's performance. Now that we have this, maybe we need to look at other opportunities, because this is just, and I understand your caution, Mrs.
Lori.
Lauren.
Madam President.
Madam President, yes, thank you. Yes, Madam President.
Just call her Lori.
Thank you,
Madam
whatever,
President.
so.
But it is going to negatively, there's no other way that they wouldn't have changed it if they thought they were gonna end up with the same outcome.
Mr. Grassi, do you
It's just
really
not
feel
gonna
that a
happen.
blind lottery is a reasonable way to award educational opportunities to anyone without any regard for the student's prior accomplishment, drive, intellect, or anything?
They have a qualification, their qualification says that you have to be on track for graduation, which means you have to be passing your current classes, you have to be on track to graduate. What was the other one? There are
That's it.
two,
I think there was another one, wasn't there?
No, it's on track for graduation.
on track for graduation, I thought there were two.
I don't remember which.
I think the other one's that they're breathing.
I mean, and if you meet those stated requirements, I don't know how else to offer those to students unless we have,
When there's more applicants than there are seats, you then have to go to a process that gives the opportunities to the people that are best prepared for them.
I don't,
So, real quick, again, I think part of it is also what is the vision, what is the goals of that school too, right? So I don't know Auburn Career
I don't either.
Center's vision goal, what they're trying to accomplish, right? That's part of that vision, right? So I don't know that to comment on what's the right process, to be honest with
Again,
you.
we asked them to come here,
Yep.
and they
Answer some
rejected the offer,
questions.
yeah.
So what are we comfortable, I think we're saying we can send a letter, we are comfortable saying we, offer you to come in and talk to us, give us information, make us knowledgeable, because this does impact our students in some way, right? I think we're willing to say that, we're asking questions like, why is it changing? What are you guys doing? You've heard from the community, they've been there, they've talked to them. So you're not only hearing from boards now, you're hearing from the community, what are you doing? Like, give us an update, tell us something.
And that we'd like
Well,
information.
so I think certainly feedback that
The process.
on the process, I think that the lack of transparency, the opportunity to work, to expand capacity, equal opportunity.
Okay.
So we can try to make, but we're never gonna have perfect equal opportunity. We just aren't. We're always gonna have more likely, almost certainly have more demand than there is supply. So it's never gonna be perfect, but we can try to make it better. And then collaboration is great.
Let's talk about this.
Right, but fundamentally, I think that we can say that we are concerned about the potential outcome of the change to their admission policies to the Riverside student body. Or we wouldn't, if we weren't, we wouldn't be writing the letter. So I think we do need to weave that element in, that while it is not proven, it has not been demonstrated of the exact impact.
I'm not comfortable with that yet. I'm not
It is
comfortable
not,
with that yet.
but it's not been demonstrated, but
that's anecdotal, and I'm not willing to go there yet.
Have you
But if
seen
you
the
just-
testimonials from the students that fought hard to get into that program and then what they did with their lives after having that opportunity? Because that's really impactful. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you do that, because I have a child that wanted to be a band director, and she knew this in 4th grade. And she's been working extremely hard. She's been doing private lessons. She was in Cleveland Youth Wing Symphony Orchestra. She's been doing everything possible that she can to get into universities. We've been touring colleges where, because she's in music, you have to audition. And if you don't audition well, you don't get accepted to
I
the
have,
college.
I have 2 children who went through that process.
So I don't understand how you wouldn't want to keep a meritocracy that we've all been raised in, and all of a sudden throw it out the window for a lottery where people aren't. And I understand, there are some people that'll come out of the fray, but I don't think by denying people that have worked for many, many years to have that opportunity to trajectory in their lives, knowing what they wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do,
So,
so
Mr.
I
Pollak,
understand what you're talking about.
I'm
but-
absolutely hearing what you're saying. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not hearing what you're saying, but I believe that we owe them the opportunity to explain their side of what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And without doing that, I don't feel like we have a good basis.
Well, I think they have pretty much said what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So-
By not saying it, they've said it.
I don't think
Can I,
I don't think they've said that to us.
Well, no, I understand.
And
No, not
that's-
to you guys, I
Right, and
agree.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking
So
for. I'm
can I-
asking them to come here and
Right, but
and say
their next
that
meeting is Monday.
to
Yeah.
us.
So real quick, I think what I heard you say, and I might be okay, I wanna make sure, I heard you say that the reason we're sending this letter is because our concern, it's unknown what the impact of our students is.
It's not proven.
Not proven.
It's not proven, but there is concern
We're
about the
concerned that
potential impact on our,
Do you disagree
I
with
will
that?
be okay with, we're concerned about potential impact. I can live with that,
okay?
right? I
Can
mean, in
everybody
the
else?
meantime, I would like them to come here and again, have some conversation with us about what their thought process, and if the board doesn't have a thought process, I'll like ask Mr. Bontempo to come here, because they're not aware of it. But at the end of the day, they have to engage us in the process, and if we are going to take the first step to engage them, I don't have a problem with that, but I want them to come here and have that conversation, or we'll go there, whatever. I don't want to be arbitrarily making decisions based on, I'm not sure.
But that's what they did. They
haven't-
arbitrarily made a decision.
Well, but I
and
don't
you
want to
guys
make
have
the
live with
same
it.
bad mistake they did, like, I wanna be better than that.
So can we get this accomplished by Monday when the next meeting is? Have them come here and talk with us?
Today's Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Probably not.
That's why it's impossible
Well,
to happen.
Right,
Well,
that's,
Well, let me,
We're in
let me,
an impossible situation because of
Wait a
their
second, let's talk
behavior.
about it.
I have to
I
leave.
think we can get, okay, if we get a letter drafted, based on what we discussed here that we feel comfortable with,
yeah, I agree. So let me, to accelerate things, I'm wondering if we might engage with, our, media person to potentially draft, do an initial draft, and then we could take the draft and tweak it from there.
we do wanna be careful, cause it'll have to come through email, so let's be careful, making sure that conversation and what that looks like, so, Nick, can we work with you to get something drafted for us? Are you guys okay if I work with him, try to capture what we have here that we said we're comfortable with, and then send it out for you guys to take a look at?
Yeah, I think that makes
Try
the
to make
most
sure
sense,
all these
because
spots, everybody's spots
I
are
mean,
put in there.
the idea would be to take the next, 20 minutes or whatever it would be and formulate the letter, so it's done.
I mean, I think the problem is though, at this point, like being like, I have to go to work. I
I gotta
think
go.
you guys.
Mrs. Grassi has to leave, she won't be here, so.
Okay, so, yeah.
So in the letter, you have to have some type of expression of urgency for the kids this.
Around the
The
dates.
problem is if we leave this table and it now goes email, that's counter to the sunshine laws, isn't it? We're not having a board meeting outside of a board meeting.
So it is likely a gray area, but we have talked in public about our intents.
It's recorded.
It's recorded, and we have the basic contents, the outline of the contents, and we will make this public. So there's nothing, we've stated our intentions. We don't have the ability to complete the letter today, but it is coming.
I'll work with Nick,
We'll work with
Mr. Kirby.
yeah, and names are eluding me today, and we'll make it public. So I believe that we will have fulfilled, in this circumstance, we will have fulfilled the transparency aspect of
And
this.
I'm not gonna have it sent until it comes to the board,
I'm
if you
good-
guys disagree.
I'm good with that, I
Okay.
just wanted to raise it
Yep,
for
perfect.
conversation.
Alright.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're tweaking the letter and it's wordsmithing and make sure the right point's coming across. Now, if you brought up a new point, add the letter, no back
That's
and forth,
different.
that's a whole other story, but you're just kind of tweaking the
So
letter.
so technically, do we know what the points are, or are there going to be new points?
We said we would talk about how we're concerned about the potential impact to our students. We do have to put urgency around it since the next drawing is Monday, right?
Yeah.
It's Monday.
Because to be consistent with the board, we just passed.
Which we also don't know how the drawings are done.
Right.
So-
Right, do-
They didn't tell
That
us.
was,
how
right,
long
that
So
was
there's-
the question I asked.
So there's lack of transparency of the change. I think we would talk about the lack of transparency, which is the
Thank you.
process that we've all,
And
so lack of
What
transparency.
caused the change, because they still haven't stated it yet.
Right.
And I think I asked,
Our
you know,
person can't
4 or 5 different questions of
But I'd like to have some consistency.
Jim when they sent the initial
I mean,
explanation of why they had done it, like how's the lottery?
Right, so,
But-
this is hard, did you say that we do not understand how what the actual selection process is? It's.
I don't know what the random drawing is. I don't know if they're cutting up names and throwing them in a hat. I don't know if it's a
Yeah, so
randomized computer
that's-
program.
We don't,
Do you
it's
know?
not transparent at this point
It's
on
electronic,
the
just one of
actual
those
process
randomized.
in place. Another point is, we understand that that we all agree with equal opportunity, and that we would like to work with Auburn Career Center, and to the best of our ability, to increase capacity of programs.
And I think we would just like to understand the process at the end of the day, like I think I had asked some questions on, you know, is it random based on size of district? Is it, you know, you get 10 slots because your district is twice as big as
Right.
this district, so you only get 5? I had asked those questions and we were not provided answers, and so yes, I have questions on that type of thing if we're gonna
The
be
whole
random.
process.
What does random mean? Let's define it, so, right, I
Right.
have questions on that, I
Yeah,
do.
right, exactly right. How, you know, we could potentially.
There's 7 different ways to be random.
Right, so it's, I mean, by the random process, although it's unlikely, I mean, it is possible that no Riverside students
Correct.
are
And
selected.
how fair would that be? So, right,
Right.
like at the end of the day,
Right.
just.
We also said, just, that, again, their process of how they made this change, you know, like,
Right,
But we're
wasn't.
not happy with
We're not
that,
happy yet.
the fact that they didn't communicate, so, yeah.
Alright. Why process changing, what are we doing?
I assume we're like tabling the rest of this conversation.
We're gonna have to.
Because I've gotta,
I think since-
I gotta go to work.
okay,
And Nick has it on video, so I can go
Right,
back and make sure I
right.
listen to our comments.
yeah. But so again, to your valid point about sunshine law, I think that we have discussed it in public, that we have talked about the points you want to include. Now, we need a process that is not conducive to public setting, but that ultimately the final product will be public.
And I think, just to add to that, not that we want to be outside of the rules, but I think the public has a real strong desire to get this letter delivered. So I don't think there's going to be any concern from the public.
Everybody today, get
Yeah.
it drafted, okay? Any other discussion on Auburn Career Center enrollment process? I know that Mrs. Grassi has to leave due to unforeseen